I'm Jeff Thorman, and today we're in a bathroom and I'm going to show you how to replace your faucet with a brand new one. In today's world of construction, there's a lot of reasons why you might need to change your faucet. Some of it is just function, and some of it is design. And a lot of it is, when they build a brand new house, they don't buy the most expensive fixtures in town. Let's just take a look and see what we have in the box, and that'll help you to understand all the different tasks that we have to do to perform this. Whenever you buy a new product to install, always take out the instructions and read through them first. That'll be helpful. But in addition to the instructions, there's a lifetime of experience to share in this video, because not every bathroom is the same. Now, we have our valve body right here, and we have traditional standard thread size, and we have a little hole in the back here, and that's for the pull rod system that works with the drain. Now, when you're buying a faucet, you want to make sure that it has the drain system attached, because if your old one is worn out, then the drain system is going to be worn out as well. Don't assume that this doesn't need to be replaced. Assume it needs to be, and that'll save your bacon. You're going to come with two of these little clips here, and these mount to this faucet to hold it to your countertop. Those are important, don't throw them out. And this right here is just a gasket, and this seals between the faucet and the sink to make sure that the water doesn't get in underneath the cabinet. And here, of course, is your pull rod. There we go. That's it. Nice and simple. If you're changing your faucet because you're changing like the metal, you're going from chrome to brushed nickel or to a matte black, which is a new kind of standard look, then I understand the point. But if you're changing your faucet because you think it's broken, consider these two things. One, if you have restricted flow, most of these faucets have a little section here that just pulls out, and it has a little washer and a strain valve here, and there can be debris trapped in that that's restricting the flow. So the faucet isn't broken, you just need to clean this out. Number two, you might have a faucet that's made of solid brass that can last 100 years, but they're just starting to leak around the handle. Oh. Okay, if you have a leak around the handle and a good quality faucet, you can actually remove the handle with a set screw. Once you've backed off the set screw, you can release the handle and it reveals the cartridge and then this nut right here. And if you turn off your water supply first and drain your pressure in your lines, or you can turn off your shutoff valve underneath, then you can take a wrench and you can actually open this up, okay? And you can take that cartridge to the hardware store and get a replacement and reinstall it. It would avoid the need to replace the entire faucet. If you've determined that you need to replace it, now we have to get underneath, because there's nothing you can do up top until we first shut off the water. When you're changing your faucet, there are two systems you're dealing with. One is the supply, the hot and cold water, and then one is the drain system. And a lot of times they're connected. So what we first want to do is shut off the water before we move forward. Now, traditionally, majority of water supply systems in a house to the vanity are going to be a shutoff valve at the source, which means it's in the back of the cabinet. In this case, we have inline straight valves that are multiple turn that are really old. So I want to show you a secret. In order to shut the valve, you want to go clockwise. But when they're old, they're extremely dangerous. So here's what I'm going to suggest. Remove the screw, take off the handle, and get a brand new handle. These handles may look like chrome, but in most cases, they are more like a very thin tin. There we go. Now it's also turned off. This is a lot safer. There are many times that I have gone to replace one of these, and just as I turned it, it broke and sheared in half, and I'd sliced my finger up. All right, don't let that happen to you. You'll also notice that this is a braided supply line. The bottom here is a 3/8 traditionally. Sometimes in the south, like where we are now with CPVC piping, it can be a 1/2-inch connection. So make sure that you get the right one. And at the top, it's always standard. It's always the same for faucets. Very easy to shop for. Once you have your water off, feel free to grab a pair of pliers and just go counterclockwise and release this nut to disengage. Do it for both sides. Then we're ready for the next step. Just for context, you're looking at the stems coming from the sink, and this is in compression. That's all that is. Now in the picture, it's black, and it's connected just to the sink. There's a lot of different variations. Sometimes it'll be the countertop and, the sink, or just the countertop. So be careful. The idea here is this washer is big enough that it'll create compression to hold this in place long term. All right. That's all it is. Because it's going to be almost impossible for you to join me under the sink to film this, we've actually set up a stage out in the living room. We have another vanity, and we're going to attach that to that sink so that you can see what's going on nice and up close, and that'll help make all this real clear. If you don't have a shutoff valve under your cabinet, it's because the house builder was using a different technology that's a lot more affordable but requires specialized tools. In this case, you turn off the water at the source, maybe at the basement in a lot of cases, and then you can cut the pipes and install a shutoff valve after the fact. And it looks something like this. If your plumbing just had a little brass cap attached to it and then a simple steel rod going to the faucet, then you would cut your pipe, all right? And it doesn't matter if it's red PEX or white PEX or clear PEX or even copper. They all have the same outside diameter. And you can buy a push fitting like this. And you just slide it on top, all right? And you want to push it down about 1 inch and twist. Now it's connected, good to go. Now you take the top of this off and you can put your 3-inch outside diameter right to the faucet line. It's called a faucet riser, and you're in business. Okay, welcome to my demo. I've got a vanity here and a sink that hasn't been plumbed before, so now you can understand how to do it from the beginning, which always makes things a little clearer. But before you get started, might I suggest removing the doors. There we go. So now it's time to actually put the faucet into the countertop. Now, before we do, one key note that you have to make sure that when you're buying a faucet, best to go to the store with a picture of the one you have currently. And here's why. This countertop has 3 holes. And this can be installed with what we call 4-inch offset. So it's 4 inches from the center of this line to this line. That's a standard installation. Or you can get a faucet that is just a single hole that has a large cover plate, and that'll also cover all these holes. Or you might have a really old sink and it's an 8-inch offset design, which means there's a hole here and a hole way over here. And in a lot of cases, those need to be special ordered. So make sure you plan in advance before you tear your plumbing apart that you've got a faucet that's in stock, right? Check with your store first. 4 inches is normal, a single hole is normal, 8-inch offset are usually custom ordered, all right? Now, we do have our faucet in our gasket. This gasket is labeled. It actually says top and front. And you can feel the raised section of the lettering, okay? So it goes on top and it faces me because this is how this works. And we're gonna just set that in place, okay? That is step 1. Now, when it's installed properly, the gasket, let me just do this improperly for you. The gasket is not gonna be sticking out, okay? It'll be exactly flush with the unit. So before we tighten that down, make sure it's exactly the way you want it. Now, almost everything else I do here, you have to do from underneath the cabinet. So if you're changing out the drain, remove the old drain first, and then install the faucet, and then install the drain. You'll find it a lot easier to get this work done. Whew. Now it's time to get on the ground. All right, now this is the position you're gonna be doing most of the rest of the work from. So get comfortable, all right? Clean out your vanity, get your shoulder blades inside the cabinet so that you're not gonna damage your cabinet, and then you're ready to work. Okay, here we go. Take your washer, set it over top, and just turn it until it's nice and snug. We're gonna go finger tight first, and then we'll do the other side. You don't want to over tighten at this point because once we get it in position, we're gonna go back up top and have a look physically. Make sure that we're not twisted or on a weird angle. You can see once you have it finger tight, you can still move this around. So instead of going crooked, I like to have it as close to the front as possible. It makes hand washing easier. Now the secret is to go back underneath and tighten it up with the wrench, just a quarter turn so it's not gonna move again. Now you take your slip pliers and you make it nice and big. And you're gonna go up here, okay? And you're gonna grab your plastic and you're gonna give it a quarter turn. And if it gives you any trouble, you can put the pliers on each side of those tabs and use that to get a grip. Okay, now this is how you can attach the sink with a pair of pliers. It's awkward, but there are tools made on the market specifically designed for attaching all of these fixtures. Feel free to pick one up if you think this is awkward. That'll allow you to work on your hands and knees reaching up into the sink with a tool versus laying on your back using a pair of pliers. Now it's time to connect your water supply lines. When you're replacing a faucet, that means you don't have access to the back of the sink. You're gonna have to do it just like this. Reach up and put it on and turn counterclockwise until you feel it sit in the thread. Then you know it's time to move forward. That's how you avoid cross-threading your threads. So we're going to place this on the thread, and we're going to go counterclockwise until you sit it in the thread. In a lot of cases, metal on metal, you'll hear it. It makes quite a distinctive sound. Okay, I'm having a problem getting the sound because the sink keeps bouncing around. There it is, ready? There we go. There we go. Now we're going to go finger tight. Okay, and then install the same for the other side. Now adjust your wrench size. Put the wrench on there after you finger tighten and add a couple of eighths or a full quarter turn. There we go. Okay, now I want to show you something really that's important. I'm going to put this upside down for a second. I'm going to demonstrate something. This is done finger tight. Here's why. Right here, we have this huge black washer, and it's thick, okay? Now when you compress this with your fingers, you can only get so tight, all right? Now this is where experience comes in. When I grab this with a wrench, okay, and the top of this wrench, let's call this at 12 o'clock, and then I roll it to 3 o'clock, that's a quarter turn, okay? And a lot of people were like, that was too easy, so they'll go again. Now that's a half turn. Now that's fine, half turn is good. Now watch this. Oh, I'm still stronger than that, okay? Oh, I'm still stronger than that. Oh, now, you can go a full rotation after you come in contact with that gasket, and if you're really strong, maybe a full 1.5. But here's what's happening. That gasket is getting compressed so tight, it's under so much pressure that it's actually causing so much resistance. The metal that's in this is now likely to split open. Or if you bought a faucet that has plastic ends, you're going to destroy the threading on that. Okay, you don't need to do that. It's not necessary. Once you set it, you've got contact with the gasket, a quarter turn, you've got contact on all the way around, right? Because the threads are on an angle. A little bit more, wow, you're really compressing that gasket now. You shouldn't have to feel like you're trying to do metal on metal. This is not an exercise for he-men. This is something that an 85-year-old grandmother can do. Just do this and just a little bit of a turn and you're good. You can always check the water after the fact, turn it on, see if it's leaking. And if it is, get under there, give it another little quarter turn. It's not going to hurt anything to have a couple of drips. But if you go over tighten, you can destroy your plumbing. Now we're almost done. The only thing left to do is connect your faucet supply line to your shutoff valve, okay? Now there's two options here. One, the water supply is coming through the wall, or it's coming through the floor and through the cabinet. Now the standard for faucet risers is 3/8 inch of a hole, and you'll see it also has a black gasket. So the same rule applies. Thread it on, all right, and then grab your wrench and give it a quarter turn, maybe a half, but don't over tighten. You risk damaging other plumbing in the system. When you have to put that much pressure on a water supply line, you risk affecting the clips or the solder joints of a copper supply line and tearing it open in the wall. Word to the wise, be delicate when you're using your wrench. Now the next step is obviously to connect to the drain. So we're going to show you two different options real quick because this video is about how to change your faucet, but in a lot of cases you're going to have to connect your new faucet to your drain because you've got this system right here. So in demonstration number one, we're going to show you how to use the rod system, and this rod gets installed right here in the back of the faucet. Okay, and it's connected underneath. Now, in this particular case, our drain system gets installed from underneath. Okay, and then you would connect the top of this drain here. The way this works is we take the drain with this stem facing the back wall up through the bottom, and then we thread this on from above. Okay, now once we have it in position, we go underneath and we tighten this nut right here, okay, holding the stem, so this is 90 degrees towards the wall, and we tighten this until that gasket creates a nice tight seal. There we go. So this piece fits in the top of the drain, okay, and then inside this body, this hole lines up with this hole in there, okay. So I'll drop that in, and what happens is this round ball now sits in there through that hole, and then it operates that function. Simple up and down motion. Our job is to connect this rod to this rod using this piece, okay? But before we do that, we have to take on this and thread that over top ever so gently, going across the thread. And this is another compression fitting. There we go. That's why I suggested do the water supply first, because you don't want to have this drain in your way when you're trying to reach around and working with it, okay? And here we go. That's working just fine. Here's the most difficult part of the assembly, and that's this. So this part here goes up on the rod. Okay, bring it through and then use your finger to just create some compression there. Then you can grab your pliers and you're going to be turning the nut clockwise and then tighten on here. And you want to do this nice and tight. This is your only shot at this. If it's loose, it'll fall apart and then you'll be crawling underneath the sink all over again. There we go. Nice and tight. Compression. Oh, there. That's under a lot of strength now. Okay. Now we have up, and you see how we have lots of room to maneuver here. So we can set the rod really high, which looks a little silly to be honest with you. All right. Or we can bring it down. That looks like nice right there. So with the rod in the upward position, which is drain fully closed, okay, you don't want to have the rod too high because they won't have room for it to come down. So if I start here, I won't have the ability to open the drain, okay? So you want to have it easy to grab. That's a good spot. Now there's this little clip here. This is where the money is. One side of the clip, okay? And then you put your rod over top, and then the other side of the clip. Now this is under a great deal of compression. Slide it in until it's straight underneath here, and that's how the function works, okay? That's waterproof and it'll last forever, all right? If you have issues with clearance because of your drain coming out of the wall or whatever, you can then take a pair of pliers and you can bend the band, okay, right where there's a hole. And you can bend it out of the way so that you can have room for functionality. Okay, that's a great trick. Now, the other option, of course, is to not have this assembly. Let's say you have this assembly, but you don't like the fact that that mechanism traps a lot of hair in the sink, and you're always cleaning it out, and it's always stinky. Here's the solution. You pinch this, slide it off the rod, okay? You disengage your nut back here. You slide this off. You can pull this rod out, or you can just leave it there, hanging there, right? Because it looks pretty. But you can actually change this to a pop-up drain. We'll show you how to do that real quick. So to change out the old drain with the pop-up, you just loosen this off, okay? Again, you can take out all of these pieces. This is also, by the way, the same way that you clean it. You take that, you pull this, and then you can grab this. That usually comes with a hair clog, and then you can clean that off and reestablish it. But in this case, we are going to take this off, get rid of that whole assembly. So here's your old piece, here's your new piece. They're roughly the same height. They are also exactly the same diameter. Universal diameter of a pipe on a bathroom vanity is 1.25 inches. So if you're taking something out, the new one will always fit. Don't be worried about that. Even if you want to replace the old drain with a pop-up for a new one with a pop-up, or go to chrome, whatever, they're all 1.25 inches. Don't have to worry about that. Now, when installing this one, it goes in a little differently. Doesn't have moving parts. So you take off the bottom collar and you leave this little washer here and you just drop it in from the inside, and you can set it right inside the old drain. So when you're dropping it down, you're going to want to put the washer on right away, and then you're going to put the collar on right away, okay? And then you're going to set it inside the other fitting that's here, and then you're going to thread this into position. Okay, now we're creating compression with the rubber gasket into the sink. Hand tight should be more than plenty, okay? And if this is too long and it doesn't fit into your plumbing because maybe there's a P-trap here, you can take a hacksaw and you can just cut off the excess before you install. Now remember, the key to a successful installation is get the right faucet for the right kind of hole configuration that's in your countertop. Make sure you get the shortest pair of slip lock pliers you can find to get in all those hard to reach places. And remember, don't over tighten, okay? Once you put everything together, you can turn the water back on and check for leaks. And then you can give it another little quarter turn if you need to. Cheers to next time.